Hello, and welcome to Mimi's Sketchbook. Today my illustration was inspired by Paul David Tripp's book, New Morning Mercies, and today is August 13th. And these perky little flowers are marigolds. When I was a teenager, I made my first garden. I was living at home and I had this little plot of land that I cleared out, and I planted some tomatoes, and I was told if you have tomato plants that you plant marigolds with them. So this, I think, was the very first flower that I ever planted. But I haven't had them in my garden for many years. I can't even remember the last time I bought a marigold or planted any in my garden. So this spring, my daughter started a bunch of tomato plants from seed and had leftovers, had extras, and asked me if I wanted some. So I kind of reluctantly said, sure, of course I want some. But I don't have really enough sun in my yard to grow them well. They're always a bit, in need of more sun to really have a good crop. But I took them and put them in the sunniest spot and thought, well, if I'm gonna do it right, I need marigolds. So I went and found some real pretty bright orange ones and planted them around the tomato plants. And this little plot is in the far back corner of my yard. And I have just been delighted with them because the marigolds, this bright orange marigolds, are always pop up. That color is always showing. And it's just such a bright little spot of color. I absolutely love it. And it made me wonder, why has it been years since I planted marigolds in my garden? So I took a little time to look up some information about marigolds, and they're divided into two varieties. The first variety is the French marigold, and that is a more petite plant, and that doesn't grow taller than 12 to 15 inches. And the second variety is known either as the American or African marigold, and that is a much larger plant. And some of the African ones, they say, can even grow up to 32 inches tall. And even though these plants are known as French or American or African, they're actually indigenous to Guatemala and Mexico. And they were first discovered in the 1600s by explorers, and that's how the seeds made their way back to Africa and Europe. And one article said that these flowers were the favorite of people to take and place on the altar of the Virgin Mary. And so they were called Mary's Gold. I'm not sure if that story is true, but I like the image of the little bouquets of these flowers adorning an altar. Another thing I learned was that the Latin name for marigolds is tagetes, and I'm a little surprised I never heard it before. Well, at least I think it's pronounced tagetes. Actually, marigolds are one of the easiest flowers to grow if they're planted in full sun and watered regularly. They should bloom all summer long, right into fall. So if these flowers come in such beautiful, brilliant colors and are so easy to grow and bloom all summer long, why has it been so long since I've grown them? Well, I ran across an article that said many gardeners ignore marigolds because they think of them as just those common yellow flowers. And when I heard that, I thought, that's it. I associate these easy-to-grow flowers with beginner gardeners. Surely not for me, especially when there are so many more challenging and interesting flowers to choose from. Why would I plant an easy-to-grow marigold when I could plant a finicky, difficult-to-grow plant that just frustrates me because I can't get it to bloom? Is it because I'm a garden snob? And if I grew a common marigold in my garden, it would mean that I have spent all these years working on my garden and it's common? Today in his devotions, Paul Tripp talks about self-righteousness and judgment. And he says that self-righteousness means you don't see yourself or the other person with accuracy. It means you see his or her speck as a log, and you see your log as a speck. If I am so easily judging flowers, could I be doing this with people? You bet I do. And just imagine how bad it's going to get with this being an election year. So the truth of the matter is, as hard as and as long as I've worked at gardening, I have a nice garden, but it sure isn't world class. And it sure would benefit from the common marigold. So all these years I've been missing out of the joy of having an easy to grow, bright, beautiful, long-lasting flower because of my pride. But here's the good news. That common little marigold has helped me to realize how much I desperately need God's grace. And thankfully, He is so patient and gracious and willing to give it to me. And I'm grateful to the marigold that has taught me a good lesson. So thank you for joining me today at Mimi's Sketchbook. I hope this lesson has been an encouragement to you. And if it has, could you please share this with someone? Or maybe give it a thumbs up. In that way, YouTube will help us to spread the good news. So thank you and God bless.